let's talk to Trent in Missouri. Trent, you are live on Skeptic Generation. Let me get you dialed in here. Hey, let me get your name fixed here. Sorry, producing live has its own little issues. All right, looks like we're good. Trent, what did you want to talk about today?
Okay, so I know first of all, I'm really glad to get a chance to talk to you today. I would have loved to have called in a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks ago when you had genetically modified skeptic on. I think this topic would have been great for the stuff that you guys were talking about on that day. I've wanted to talk about this with other people. Normally I can't call because I go to church on Sundays at this time. This week we don't happen to have it. I am an atheist.
Okay.
But my question has to do with it's really more of a topic. I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
It's the idea of holding on to belief as a mechanism for dealing with struggles in life versus even if intellectually you know that it's not reality. And maybe the word belief isn't the right thing to use there, and that's part of why I wanted to talk to somebody about it. So there's two things that kind of brought me to this idea. One is I have multiple children and who have various degrees of anxiety, and I've got one that's autistic, and so I've experienced a lot of interesting different patterns of brain activity.
Sure. Just to have that on the same page with you, I have years of working in special ed. In fact, my mom was a special ed teacher, and I grew up in that classroom. And so, working, very, very closely with kids and young adults with special needs, I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, and so, and I know that I myself am very much into things have to absolutely make sense. I need to understand why. I mean, even when I was, I'm a Mormon by upbringing and by current practice. I call myself a Mormon atheist because I actually do actively attend and speak with people as if I believe, and it's not necessarily just to mask. It's because I find that there's value for lots of people in belief, and but I have a couple of my kids that, when dealing with anxiety, one of the mechanisms that we use to help them deal with the anxiety was to treat their brain like a separate person.
Okay, I can dig that.
Okay, and actually have conversations with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like talk to their brain and say, thank you for looking out for me, but I've got this. As a mechanism. So that's one thing that kind of triggered my thinking along these lines. And then the second thing is that a few years ago, there was you're familiar with Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. Are you familiar with that?
I didn't remember the name of the author, but I know that book. Yeah.
Okay, I actually haven't read the book, but I watched a TED Talk that she gave, where she talked about genius and suggested that it might be beneficial if we were to consider genius as not something that somebody is, but something that people have access to, something outside of ourselves, and as if personifying this genius one is a way to not feel like you have to live up to some pressures that are put on us to succeed. And I wonder if some of the religious thoughts and some of the beliefs that people have are really that the idea of, because I know that for myself, having the idea of a redeemer, a Christ powerful when I'm feeling, you know, not as a way to not take responsibility for my actions, but to basically move on from from beating myself up, from that I'm not somehow lost. Because I see that happen all the time. People make mistakes and they want, or how we deal with justice. This idea we want some justice. Is it possible that there are certain brain chemistries that need that? We're not all as rationally minded as I have my one daughter who's autistic, very high functioning, as some people say, but her mind is just has to make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm closer to that. Whereas my wife, it's like she just doesn't. It's not that she doesn't need to know all of the details. And so for her, the stories are just a shortcut, easy way to deal with things, to not have to work through those issues. And so I know I've kind of rambled and touched on a lot of things here.
You have.
It's a broad subject, and it's one that I'm starting to explore to try to understand a little bit better. I just heard yesterday about a book called that I want to study. What is it called? Something about the cognitive something of religion.
No worries. So we have a couple of things that we probably should address in sections. That way we can, take something that's so big and break it down a little bit. And so I'm going to make a couple of notes so that I can make sure that I don't forget, because my ADHD butt is going to forget.
Well, that's part of my issue too. Is that that's part of the reason I was all over the place. It's like, oh wait, there's this over here.
No worries. So let me see if I can repeat back a couple of these things, and we'll see where we can go from there. Okay.
Okay.
So one of the first things that I'm remembering here in what you said is benefit of believing something even if it's not true.
Well, or at least acting as if you believe.
Got it. Okay. I'm literally making these notes while we're talking because I know that I'm going to wind up forgetting after I get down one of these trains of thought.
That's okay.
And so the next is what the actual benefits are for things like prayer, or for believing in a redeeming figure, because it feels better when you're feeling lost, right?
Yes.
I have a keyboard that's less clicky that I use just for this show, and I didn't put it in front of me before the show started, so I might grab it in a few minutes.
I like the clickies.
Yeah. Oh, good. I just worry that people who are listening as a podcast or whatever.
I know you have to do what's best for the show, but it doesn't bother me. But
I appreciate that. So we have that, and then what was the next piece from there?
Just the how do those pieces? I didn't really say this, but I think that, because honestly I can't remember exactly what I said either.
No worries.
I'll have to go back and listen to the call to see if. But I'm wondering if there's strategies that we could help people basically move beyond the problems of belief without knowledge. Belief without understanding, I guess, would be better.
Yeah. Oh, those are such good questions. Okay, cool. So first off, when you lose the train of thought like that, to me, what that tells me is you are more interested in actively listening to me than you are in waiting for your turn to talk. And so when we both lose the train of thought because we're so interested in talking to each other. I love that. There's never anything to apologize for on that. So you're super good.
Oh, I had never thought of it that way.
Right?
That's impressive. That's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah. So believing in something, even and acting as if it's true, even if it's not. Personally, I'm just some asshole on the internet. I can only speak for myself, but I found this to be true for a lot of people when I speak to them about it. And that is, there's a difference between knowing something in your head and knowing it in your heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
when I came to a cognitive place of understanding that there's no way that the God I believed in existed, that doesn't mean that my heart was immediately able to understand that. And so the idea of praying, I had spent my entire life feeling like I was communing with this deity every time I prayed. And my brain had built these neural pathways that just emphasized it. They'd become highways that were easy to traverse. And so building new pathways was very difficult. And actually understanding that took a really long time. And during that time, I felt very, very wrong. There was something wrong, you know. At the time, I thought that my God antenna was broken, and I just could not communicate with them. You know, that something was off. But what I found eventually was there came a point in time that prayer started losing its feeling of usefulness. Not because I was, you know, cognitively going, oh, well, I know this isn't true, but just because it stopped helping. You know, and at that point, I felt like that reality had gone from my head to my heart, that I actually fully understood in my heart that wasn't, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally understand that because I've only been able to articulate that I've only been able to basically claim that I'm an atheist for just probably about a year.
Oh man,
But
yeah, you've got so much ahead of you. Yeah, no, that is an early place to be. God, I didn't.
well, except the thing about it is, this is what I've come to realize is that my journey is much longer than that. Out of literal belief to more nuanced,
mm-hmm.
and what I'm wondering if it was just that switch in my, so I'm actually going to be. I've started thinking about something called, it's changing the narrative.
Okay.
You know that so you were talking about these neural pathways.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wonder if the neural pathways that you talked about that had God, that you're still using those, but you've just relabeled them.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I think I've done, and why to me, because this has not been a painful process at all. I mean, I don't have I mean, I know that it is for many, and I don't want to dismiss that, but to me, it's just been a very natural process. But it's been more about just recognizing that those conversations that I used to think I was having with God, because I never really did formal prayer, knelt down and prayed. I just always felt like I had a prayer in my heart. I was just always having conversations with God. And so what I've been able to do in the meantime is realize that, I was just having conversations with myself.
That was the other thing you were talking about, externalizing.
Right, working through things. And so maybe kind of what I'm wondering is as you were speaking about your experience of the head to the heart, because I totally get that. There's still plenty of things that I know that I need to behave differently and need to do differently because it's intellectually I know that, but I just can't quite.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Get over that hump. I suspect that's probably going to be a challenge for most of us all of our lives. That's the challenge of becoming our ideal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, I mean, I love the discussion a couple of weeks ago with all of the
Oh, Atheopagans. Yeah,
Yeah, Atheopagans.
Atheopagan episode.
Yes,
Yeah.
I actually really love that because it was really like, oh yeah, because that's because I still, I mean, I know that a lot of people make fun of Mormonism, and and uh, I would never, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because I knew I could have a conversation with you about this without feeling like I had to defend anything. Um,
Yeah.
but to me, I've always liked I really, and I still do, I like the idea of the Mormon God, one who's a progressive human.
I have had a lot of Mormon friends in my life. What blows my mind is that you're still active in the church and they still let you be. Because in my experience of talking to Mormons, ex-Mormons, and all of that, voicing doubt and having those kinds of questions have led people to be kicked out of their communities. So the fact that you haven't been kicked out of your community, I'm glad to hear.
Oh, I just don't let them.
Oh. Okay. You know what? So there's not a wrong way or a right way to be an atheist. You do.
No,
Yeah.
no, I know. I mean, I'm not. I don't. But see, that's what helped me realize that I could actually, I've been doing this for for years as
Yeah.
as an active Mormon, and realized, oh, I actually am an atheist. I don't actually believe this, but I'm, but there are. I mean, I actually love the scriptures. I think
Yeah.
there's so many things that we can learn from them. Do I think that they're literal and no, but that's what kind of brings me to these ideas of the power of mythology in our lives.
Absolutely. I've known plenty of people who've taken books of poetry and just read into them, found themselves reading into them things that were beneficial for their own lives. In fact, there are, quite a few atheist witches who have really described tarot as doing exactly that, right? Laying out the cards, finding what they mean for you, and then using that as a way to kind of hack into your own brain to figure out, where you're thinking about things and where you want to go with things. Doing that, I think, is really, really useful. In fact, externalizing things so that you can address them is a really, really great tool to be able to prevent it from getting power in your life. I know I've talked about it before, but I have clinical depression. My depression is a hitchhiker that I'm not able to kick off the train. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, best day of my life, it doesn't matter. It's just there. And being able to treat it as an external thing and go, hey, I know you're here, but you don't get to be the loudest person in the room. I'm going to put you here to the best of my ability. And then recognizing that on days when that fight is too hard, when that depression is hitting really hard, for me to go, this is my depression. I'm recognizing, okay, it's throwing a tantrum today, but that doesn't make me worse of a person. It doesn't mean that I need all of my tomorrows to be owned by it. And that is fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of strategies that I help that I've helped my kids with.
What a good dad. I like you, Trent.
When I finally accepted that, when I finally understood that they were behaving the way they were because they were having anxiety attacks, not because they were just throwing tantrums, I feel bad that it took me a while to understand that. But once I did, I was able to help them cope with it, and by using that kind of a strategy, and that's basically what Elizabeth Gilbert. I mean, to me, that's what she's suggesting when she talks about personifying genius as something outside of ourselves. And she gives some. I mean, it's a great TED talk if you haven't ever listened to it.
It sounds really familiar. It's interesting. I'm definitely all for that. I think that when it comes to the belief and acting in the community itself, have you ever had a friend that was a real dick to other people but was great to you?
Yeah, I think I definitely have some that are. I don't know if I call them a real dick, but I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I've definitely had friends who, when I was before I left the Christian space, there were lots of guys who were just misogynist, you know, were just really fun to hang out with, but treated women like crap. Um,
Oh, uh-huh.
yeah. And at a certain point, I realized that I could not separate that, and I don't think I should, because it just felt awful. And after a certain point, I realized I didn't want to be their friend. And I took a stand and ended those friendships. And it felt selfishly sucky, because why wouldn't you want to keep those friendships? But at the same time, holding those separate things at the same time was not helpful, and it was not benefiting anyone. In fact, it created a system where that person could continue to be an asshole because they weren't getting repercussions for it in their real life. And that's kind of the end place where I came when it came to Mormonism. That I had volunteered with, and even like gone to, like, does your Mormon church do trunk or treat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, and there are like so many community activities, you know, the different, like, were there like ward parties that you would go to? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, exactly. Well, and I guess the thing is, because I mean I don't pay tithing, and so therefore I'm not eligible to go to the temple. And I mean, while um, I love the temple. I mean, I know that sounds odd for people, but I happen to love the ritual, because I don't look at it as I look at it as ritual. And
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people I know that actually was not freaked out the first time I went to the temple.
Well, I mean, it's so divorced
It's
from the
so
rest of the world that it kind
it
of,
absolutely is. But I grew up reading fantasy and high ritual literature, and so to me that was all it was just high ritual.
I
So
get that. I get that. Yeah,
you know,
no.
and I know that, I mean, like I just happened to be glancing through chat here, and I mean, the reason I'm still active is not because I care anything about the church as a whole. Um, it's because it's my community, it's my people.
Yeah.
I mean, Mormonism is my heritage, and so I am fourth generation on all sides. I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So I mean, my grandfather was um, it was good friends with one of the apostles of the church, the church, and so it's not just it's never been just a belief to me. It's been
A cultural thing. Yeah.
it is, and so
Like,
but
I'm sorry, go
go ahead.
ahead.
Oh, it's just that I realized that the culture that the church was becoming. I mean, I didn't realize that I was raised so differently in the church than so many of my friends until about 10 years ago, when I started to really talk to people about it.
Yeah.
Because I was raised that it was okay to have doubts. I was raised that it was okay to
Really?
yes, to criticize leaders. I mean, my parents were always absolutely orthoprax as far as you could go. I mean, we didn't have playing cards in our house because we couldn't. We never had any colas in our house
Mm-hmm.
because of the caffeine. I mean, we were very, very strict orthoprax. But when we would be watching General Conference and listening to the leaders of the church speak, my dad would be over there and he'd say, "Well, I don't know about that," when they'd say something.
Oh, that is
And
so
yet,
interesting. I wonder if it is. I wonder if it's because you can trace your roots so far back. Like, when you say trace those roots, do you mean like back to Nauvoo, or back to like
oh
Joseph
yes, well,
Smith?
okay,
Or I'm
my
sorry. I know like 90% of the people watching are like, "What the fuck are they?" But I need to know now.
I know. So my my great grandfather. So it's not even that far back. My grandfather was born in 1893, and his father was born in 1825, and his father, so that's my great grandfather, was Brigham Young's nephew.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So we're not even talking that many generations as far as that line. Um,
Oh my
And
God.
my
Okay. So like how did your family deal with the FLDS split and like all of the other splits? There are a lot of splits.
there
Oh.
are, and I've had family members, like one of my father's sisters and her husband. They felt that the church, back in the '90s, they thought that the leadership of the church had gone astray, and they left the
Mhm.
church to join a polygamist cult.
I mean, I like at the time I wouldn't necessarily consider it as a cult as just that fundamentalist like section of it. Okay, so I have to another question. You're in Missouri. Were you related
Yes.
to the Missouri like Jackson County group?
Yes.
Ah!
One of my
Really?
one of my one of my ancestors is Amanda Barnes Smith, who I don't know if you've ever heard that name before, but she's very prominent in the her husband was and his son was killed at Hans Mill, the Hans Mill massacre.
Hmm.
She was Amanda Barnes. Um, was I've forgotten the exact, but no, she's very prominent in the early LDS Church.
Yeah.
My great great grandfather on my mother's side was personally taught by Joseph Smith, and moved to Nauvoo, and yeah, so my roots go way back.
I
Um,
if as a non-Mormon, can you tell I kind of have done like a little bit of
oh yeah, no, absolutely.
that is wild. That is wild. I'm so Trent, I'm glad you're here. And I have to wonder if it's because of kind of having that familial history that has caused you to have such a different experience from so many people, because that yeah, the Mormons that I went to high school with and got to know after high school, definitely grew up in an environment that was not okay with that kind of thing.
Oh, and I totally get that now. Like, it took me years as an adult to look around at the other members of the church around me and say, what are you guys not getting? Because I wasn't really learning what their stories were and what their background was. And then about about 10 years ago, I started to question a whole bunch of things about my beliefs. And boy, I
Yeah.
tell you, I've uh, I've changed in so many ways in the last. I mean, moving to Missouri was one of the best things for me with regards to that, because I really started to examine everything in my life. Why do and that's when I started to understand what is epistemology.
Yeah.
How do I know the things that I do? Because I've always been so confident in
Well,
my beliefs.
I mean, in believing communities, it is viewed as um, a really good thing to have just, you know, absolute confidence in something. You were more
Oh
believable
yeah,
and more trustworthy if you were never wrong and you had absolute confidence, which, as a non believer now, I'm just like, wow, that was crazy. Um, but yeah, okay. So I'm sorry for digressing. That's just really interesting. Trent, I'd love to just talk to you at some point, but I know I kind of want to get back to what you had called in about. Um, trying to bring us back here so more people can follow. Before I do though, I do want to say I don't have other callers on the line, so I'm just going to give our phone number one more plug so that we can try and get some more people queued up after you. Okay. So let me just say that if you want to call 412-753-7436, that's 412-SKEPGEN, or tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Would love to talk to you. In the meantime, Trent. Okay. So the benefit of believing something, even if it's not true, and then acting as it is, I personally think that you can't choose your beliefs. Your beliefs,
well, that's why I'm not sure that belief is really the right word there, because
yeah.
I agree with that, but I'm not sure what other word to use.
I I think that utilizing tools that are useful, yeah, I mean, utilize them so long as they are useful. I have found that for most non-believers, eventually that stuff stops feeling as useful. And if that's the case, then I advise that you find other ways to keep doing that kind of thing. There are lots of atheists I know who really benefit from meditation and different types of meditation. When it comes to atheist witches, doing spell work is just a kind of meditation from what I've seen.
Right.
When I've talked to atheo-pagans, picking a deity that kind of aligns with what you're feeling or what you want, and using that kind of prayer as a way to, focus yourself in on something that you want, or to help yourself, resolve, upsets or fears or traumas. Like, all of those things are us just figuring out how to hack our brains. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess that's, so, and, I'm not thinking about it so much for myself as to how to, I mean, it's like, if I never went back to church again, it's like, yeah, I'd still interact with the people that I like there. I go each week. One, it's an opportunity. I play the organ. It's an opportunity for me to do that. It's an opportunity for me to serve the people there. And I participate to the level that I want to participate, to serve it like I want to. And
playing the organ.
I don't.
So you could win the rub your belly, pat your head competition.
I'm becoming an organist. Let's put it that way. I'm
okay.
That turned into an organist, and I don't feel like I'm quite there yet where I can call myself an organist, but I'm definitely further along than most people that play the organ in church for Mormons.
Okay. I got you. And that's in your
I've got good friends of mine that are professional organists that play for churches that actually pay their musicians. And so I also happen to have, it's just as a little aside to blow your mind a little bit more, I happen to I sang with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir for 8 years.
Ooh, oh, they sound so pretty.
And I loved doing that. That was very there were some really amazing experiences I had doing that. Some that at the time I called spiritual, the spirit, and now I just recognize them as still amazing, and that's kind of how I've reinterpreted spiritual. To me, I do feel like there is some power in connection and community. In fact, that's been the biggest change in my life, is the switch from individualist to recognizing that I'm part of a community, and my individual, while the individual is important, the community, I think, is there needs to be a balance there.
Yeah. So Trent, I love the way that you're emoting. You are coming in a little quiet. I have the exact same problem. So just so you know, it was something that was taught to me when I first started. It's your dynamic range, that you're loudest and you're quietest. Just just so you know, people probably had to turn the volume up on that one a little bit.
I appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to promote myself, but I am trying to start a YouTube channel to talk about some of these issues.
Really?
But I am.
Hey, Trent, when you get it started, you give me a shout, and if there's anything I can do to help, if you want to guest.
Well, honestly, I was planning on giving you a call to find out what kinds of things I might need, because I do think I have an interesting perspective on it. I mean, it's not going to be focused strictly on atheism, but that's definitely a factor.
Yeah.
It is a factor in my life.
Have you reached out to Bryce Blankenhagel or any of the Mormon?
The only other Mormon that I'm not aware of. I honestly don't watch a lot of ex-Mormon streams because I don't relate to their experiences.
So I just for pure fun, Thank God I'm Atheist is 2 ex-Mormons living in Salt Lake City who are just hilarious, who I've listened to since before I hope they're still around, who I listened to since before I ever did stuff on my own. There's also Naked Mormonism. And Naked Mormonism actually goes into like the history and how Mormonism actually happened by going into real deep stuff. Okay, so yeah, you've checked that out.
Yeah, Oh yeah, see, that's part of the thing is that I've been fully aware of most of the problems of the church because I have such a long history. None of that's a surprise. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe I didn't maybe know all of the details, but it didn't surprise. Most of the things didn't surprise me.
That is amazing.
So
So Trent, hop on Discord. I'm going to be doing an after show, and I would love to talk to you
okay,
in the Discord. The link to the Discord is in the description for this
yep, got
video,
it.
and also I know our amazing moderators will also pop the link. So definitely hop into the Discord, and I'll talk to you more about it afterward. I'd be happy to help you in any way I can.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to necessarily get into that, but it sounds like I might want to even read because there were, like I said, there were some things that were in that paleo or not paleo. That's a whole different that that atheo pagan episode that were really intriguing to me about the picking
Yeah. Well, actually,
a deity whose things you idolize or not idealize, not idolize.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, idealize is the right word. Actually, I have an atheist witch in the screening room who I'm going to be picking up and probably picking up that
Oh,
conversation
okay.
with. So, yeah, I know there are a lot of things we wanted to talk about, but we've already gone for over a half hour.
We have, and I'm glad you've got other callers now. So.
Thank you. You saved my butt. I really appreciate it. But Trent, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this call, and I look forward to talking to you later.
All right, it's good to talk to you, Eric.
You too.
Love the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to seeing the work that you do.
Oh, thanks.
Take care, Trent.
Okay.
Oh, what a sweetheart. And for everybody else, I would love to see you in our Discord as well. I've been doing after shows after every episode. Unless I'm feeling really sick or something, I really enjoy kind of doing a debrief and a hangout with people. Link is in the description. And yeah, I'd love to catch you there.